Let us talk about passage 2. This was about artificial intelligence. Now, this passage was an easy read and it's a contemporary issue, so I'm sure that a lot of you would be familiar with this also. Out of the 4 questions, I think 3 were pretty easy here and 1 was slightly tricky. Question 6. None of the following can be inferred from the passage except. So, a double negation. Basically, we are saying what can be inferred, right? So, first of all, correct interpretation is important. Now, let's look at the options. Fixing liability correctly when there are AI errors is crucial to ensure the widespread acceptance of AI products. Okay, but isn't the author through different instances questioning this? Okay, so whose responsibility is this? Should I blame the end user or should I completely blame the designers? Right. So the author has been asking these questions in the passage, right? We'll look at various instances here to see whether A is the answer or not. B. Blaming AI designers for AI errors is correct. No. This is false as per the passage. So right away eliminated. C. It is possible to create a comprehensive, just and contemporary liability system for AI errors. While the author suggests that, okay, the author says this, we propose to revamp traditional liability frameworks. That is all that we know, that the author has proposed to revamp the traditional frameworks. Whether on revamping the system that will result will be just, comprehensive or not, that is not discussed in the passage. That goes slightly beyond what is discussed in my RC passage and therefore should have been eliminated. So C is eliminated, B is eliminated. Between A and D. D says insurers and not manufacturers should test and validate AI technologies in order to protect their policyholders. Now, this point about insurers is clearly mentioned. We'll look at this and not manufacturers part by going back to the RC passage. All right. So let's look at both A and D and establish which is better. So if I come to the beginning of this RC passage, it begins by saying that, okay, what if something goes wrong, right? So let's say the author gives examples that there's a treatment, AI recommends a treatment that ultimately causes harm. A driver, uh, some AI driven technology drives a car recklessly before its human driver can react. So is that really the doctor or the driver's fault? Okay, is it the company that created the AI's fault? So designer, user, and what accountability should everyone else, health systems, insurers, manufacturers, regulators, face if they encourage adoption? These are unanswered questions. So they have not yet been answered as to whose liability it is. So when there are AI errors, the author's focus in the passage is not on fixing the liability correctly. Okay, the author's focus is on not punishing anyone indiscriminately, not punishing anyone disproportionately. Okay, so that is why fixing the liability correctly is not what the author's priority is. The author's priority is that nobody should be punished disproportionately. And some students feel that A is the answer because of this part. The key is to ensure that all stakeholders, users, developers, and everyone else along the chain from product development to use bear enough liability to ensure AI safety and effectiveness. So all stakeholders bear enough liability to ensure AI safety and effectiveness. So here also we are not fixing the liability when an AI error has happened. Here in the product development stage, okay, when the product is being developed, we are saying that everyone should, all the stakeholders should bear enough liability so that the product that comes out is safe and effective. So it's not really about fixing the liability correctly, it's about sharing the liability to ensure effectiveness, to ensure safety. It does not talk about what happens when AI errors occur, right? So that is why you cannot confuse these two instances with option A. The questions are unanswered, that's one clue to reject A, right? The second is that when we talk about we are talking about sharing the liability. The idea is about sharing the liability so as to ensure safety. It does not talk about what happens when there are AI errors. And the third bit is that the focus is that nobody is punished disproportionately and not really on fixing the liability correctly. So these are the 3 reasons because of which we eliminate it. D Delhi is the answer. Now, how the not manufacturers bit? That is the question. right? Because this is given to us. The part about insurers is clearly given to us. Insurers must protect policyholders from the excessive costs of being sued over an AI injury by testing and validating new AI algorithms prior to use, just as car insurers have been comparing and testing automobiles for years. This is given. Now, why and not manufacturers? See this. Uh, Shifting the blame solely to AI designers or adopters does not solve the issue either. Now, look at this sentence carefully. Of course, of course, the designers created the algorithm in question, but is every Tesla accident Tesla's fault to be solved by more testing before the product launch? Indeed, some AI algorithms constantly self-learn, taking their inputs and dynamically using them to change the outputs. So here the author is questioning this idea that is every AI error to be solved by more testing before the product launch by the designer. So the author doesn't seem to be in favor of this idea that the designer should go for more and more testing before product launch. But yes, in the revised framework that the author suggests, insurers must do that, this testing and validating, to protect their policyholders. So I think this is what makes D the best answer choice, because the author clearly says that insurers must do this job for their policyholders. Okay, and manufacturers should not, basically, manufacturers may not be able to solve this problem by more testing, right? And moreover, when we have the word policyholders, of course, insurers should do the job for them, right? So D, Delhi is the answer. This was a slightly tricky question. I would not call it easy. A and D could confuse a student. D is, however, the better answer choice.